Hi, everybody. I'm Roy Firestone, and this is Facebook Live. Today's show is a show about remembering. He played in the game they once called the greatest game in NFL history, the 1958 championship sudden death win for the Colts over the Giants. He then played on the team against the Colts, which may have been the biggest upset win in NFL history. The Jets' shocking Joe Namath guaranteed win 16-7 over the Colts in Super Bowl III. Hall of Famer Don Maynard died this week. He was 86 years old. His journey in football is almost legendary, and his story is really almost hard to believe. He attended 13 schools, including 5 different high schools. As a senior at Colorado City High School in Colorado City, Texas, Don lettered in football, basketball, and track. He did not wear a chin strap on his helmet. Instead, he used special cheek inserts that held the helmet tightly in place. And he deliberately wore number 13 because he felt he wanted to overcome the odds, but no superstition would deny him. Don Maynard, 4-time AFL All-Star. He is 6th in all-time pro football touchdown receptions. He's a member of the AFL All-Time Team. He was something of a folk hero in football, part corn-fed, part homespun, and to talk to him, you almost thought you were talking to Gomer Pyle. His accent was that thick. But Maynard was no hayseed at all. And he was a very good businessman who was also a smart player who helped groom Joe Namath when he came into the AFL in 1965. In fact, Maynard had 1,218 yards on 68 catches and 14 touchdowns in Joe's first season. Joe, by the way, had 22 touchdown passes that year. In 1967, Maynard caught 1,434 of Namath's historic 4,007 passing yards. That's more than a quarter of all the catches. Joe and Don were friends for 50 years, and the night when Joe famously got drunk at a Jets-Patriots game and tried to kiss ESPN's Susie Colbert in an embarrassing moment for Joe personally, well, I was there with both Joe and Don. As we talked in the press box, Don Maynard said to me, "Roy, I've never tasted liquor in my life. My daddy was an alcoholic, and I swore I'd never drink. But Joe is drunk, and you're going to go downstairs on that field with him for ESPN? Don't let him go on TV. He'll embarrass himself." Of course, I had no control over what Joe did when we went on the field. You know what happened. This is what happened.
What does it mean to you now when the team is struggling?
I want to kiss you. I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
It was awful. We had been gone since 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I did the wrong thing.
And I felt terrible for Joe, who's really a wonderful guy and one of my all-time favorite people in sports. But I'll never forget that Don Maynard warned me that Joe was about to do something foolish and I couldn't stop him. In the end, it was Don Maynard who did help get Joe sober again, and they remained close friends till the end came for Don this past week. Don Maynard was a true original. He was always dismissed and scorned and derided early in his career as some sort of NFL reject, but he gained the respect as one of the all-time great players through hard work and determination. One of only 20 players who were in the AFL for their entire 10-year existence, Don Maynard was also one of only 7 players who played their entire AFL careers with one team. Don finished his career for 633 receptions, 11,834 yards, 88 touchdowns. By the way, his 18.7 yards per catch, that's the highest for anybody with at least 600 receptions. And he was the first receiver to reach 10,000 yards. He retired as Pro Football's all-time leading receiver, which stood until Charlie Joyner surpassed him in the year 1986. Don Maynard did it all on guts and a belief in himself. What a story. This is the photo of me and Joe a few minutes before Joe and I went into that field at halftime. It's a night I'm never going to forget, and a night Joe would like to. One of the many gifts my dad gave me was an appreciation and love for the spoken and printed word. He also loved great lyricists for music. I mean, what would George Gershwin have been without the lyrics from his brother Ira Gershwin? Or how about Richard Rodgers without Oscar Hammerstein or Lorenz Hart? Or Elton John, Bernie Taupin? Or Carole King without, most of the time, Jerry Goffin? You know, I've always loved great lyricists in popular music. It's a love that came from my dad. And we lost a great talent the other day when we lost Marilyn Bergman, who passed away at 93 after a long illness. She and her husband, Alan, were married 63 years, and theirs was really the kind of love you only read about or write about. Marilyn and Alan Bergman, they wrote about love and passion and friendship and longing, and in a sense, what they represented in their lyrics told us a lot about how they felt for each other. They often wrote lyrics separately in quiet rooms, and then collaborated with ideas and thoughts and words. In my time, there were few lyricists who could match them. And I had the pleasure of meeting Alan and Marilyn numerous times because I was at parties at my friend Melissa Manchester's home. Marilyn and Alan were among Melissa's closest friends. They shared a love of melody and words married together. And Marilyn was devoted to her husband and family, and she understood the power and beauty spoken and sung with words, words that fueled great melody with meaning and poignance. Just consider some of the lyrics from Marilyn and Alan in songs like Windmills of Your Mind. I mean, it's really something out of Keats or Shelley or Wordsmith. Listen to this. Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, on an ever-spinning reel, like a snowball down a mountain, or a carnival balloon, like a carousel that's turning, running rings around the moon, like a clock whose hands are sweeping past the minutes of its face, and the world is like an apple whirling silently in space, like the circles that you find in the windmills of your mind. Whew, great stuff. They wrote in unison and thought, but they also wrote with heart and love for each other. And I always felt that much of what they wrote was not so subtly about their own time together. Here is the lyrics from The Hands of Time, Brian's song, you might remember. If the hands of time were hands that I could hold, I'd keep them warm, and in my hands they'd never turn cold. Hand in hand we'd choose the moments that should last, the lovely moments that should have no future and no past. The summer from the top of the swing, the comfort in the sound of a lullaby, the innocence of leaves in the spring, but most of all the moment when love first touched me. Marilyn and Alan were the first couple of music, lyrics, and verse. The two were virtually inseparable. Sure, marriages are flawed, people are imperfect, we know that, but watching them from a distance, I always got the feeling that they thought they were independent people, but they thought and loved as one person. And that love was expressed on a lyric sheet. They expressed at times the fear and doubt of love too, and they did in the beautiful and touching song, How Do You Keep the Music Playing? They wrote, how do you keep the music playing? How do you make it last? How do you keep the song from fading too fast? How do you lose yourself to someone and never lose your way? How do you not run out of things to say? And since you know we're always changing, how can it be the same? And tell me how year after year you're sure your heart won't fall apart each time you hear his name. Their music kept playing decade after decade. They could write playful lyrics like the theme from Maud, and then there's Maud, remember that one? And they could break your heart with sentiment and heartfelt reminiscence. I believe their most acclaimed work was The Way We Were. Memories like the corners of my mind, misty watercolor memories of the way we were. Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another for the way we were. Can it be that it was all so simple then, or has time rewritten every line? And if we had the chance to do it all again, tell me, would we? Could we? Memories may be beautiful, and yet what's too painful to remember, we simply choose to forget. So it's the laughter we remember, whenever we remember the way we were. Well, the way they were was the way most of us could only dream of in a love affair that never died until one of them did. Devotion, passion, commitment to each other, and to things that really mattered most in life. Love. And not just romantic love. The Bergmans famously had a love for justice and progressive causes and equality and human kindness. They were hosts to many Democratic fundraisers, spoke openly and fearlessly about intolerance and unfairness. Marilyn Bergman was Alan Bergman's right hand and the right heart. She led and he followed, and sometimes he led and she followed. Her remarkable talents merged with his and left an indelible record of musical collaboration on record that was second to none in their time. You know, Lennon had McCartney. Sometimes one would inspire the other with words or music, but Marilyn had Alan, and they would inspire each other with ideas and literate and powerful lyrics, and the songs became legendary because of those words. Marilyn Bergman was half of the greatest lyricist team in contemporary music history. She is gone now. Alan is 96 years old. He's going to try and press on, but I'm sure it's going to be almost impossible for him to do so because the love of his life, the partner in love and lyric, has passed. But what remains now and forever are the words that will always matter. You know, we've lost so many vital people in the news recently. Betty White and Sidney Poitier and Peter Bogdanovich, Bob Saget, Don Maynard, as we just said earlier, John Madden. Lose so many people who aren't famous too, but who are still dear to us every day. And we need to remember them while they're alive. I wrote this piece about that. Don't wait. Tell them now. Don't wait for it to be a eulogy. Don't delay and regret you never put the words together when they were here. Tell them that you are a better person for them having been in your life, that they inspired you, moved you to be something good and positive, that you learned something from them you couldn't have found without them, that they brought you the greatest gift, maybe something that you couldn't hold in your hand, but something that you can have in your heart and mind forever. More aware, more compassionate, smarter, wiser, better. They ignited your humanity. So tell them, the teacher who taught you something that wasn't easily found in any book, the lover or friend who made you feel more whole, the man or woman on the beat for public service, the soldier, the fireman, the cop, the father who may have said silly things or acted goofy or had a bad temper and said things you wish you wouldn't have at times, the man who brought you a subtle life lesson too. The mother who sometimes seemed overbearing and nosy, but whose light became part of you in the best of ways. So tell grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, niece, nephew. Tell the son or daughter. Tell them, and tell them now. Tell the best friend you ever had, the one you might have taken for granted here or there, or the one you just never got around to putting into words. Because of their presence, you laughed harder and saw something in yourself that they showed you in their time here that made you safer, less alone, happier, more loved. Every day, everywhere, there are people around us whose very presence in your life brought you the greatest gifts of all, and you never really thanked them, never really told them. So tell them now. Don't wait. Time isn't in a vacuum. It hurtles through space in an alarming pace, and you awaken one day and it is past. It's letters never written, words never spoken, that time swallowed up and left you suddenly without them. Tell them. Tell them all that you're a better man, a better woman, because they were here, because they were a big part of your life. Tell them how much you love them, appreciate them, and honor them, and give gratitude easily, freely, and without hesitation or fear, because they will not be here forever, and neither will you. Tell them. Tell them now. Because Thanksgiving should be every day. That's our show. We'll see you next week.